So I reached out to you, what I guess about 4 or 5 months ago, because you had a
Mhm.
TikTok video that actually went viral. And in
Yeah,
that TikTok video, you were discussing Venezuela and how you see current events going on here. And I'll kind of let you share why you made that video.
sure. I made it out of frustration, to be honest. I didn't have much of a following on TikTok. I couldn't share my thoughts anymore on Facebook. Well, I could, but I was tired of getting to fight with people because most of my interactions on Facebook that had anything to do with the statues ended up with fights with people that were my friends, my acquaintances, and all that.
Okay.
And for the most part, people that agreed with me didn't really want to engage. So I was just left with just fighting. And so I started sharing my opinions on the statues, the Columbus statues being torn down. It reminded me of what happened back home when the Columbus statues were torn down because the president that we had was embracing this revisionist history rhetoric about, how horrible the European colonizers were, etc.
Hmm.
And they turned down the Columbus statues, and after that, it was like the street names were changing. Then after that was the name of this was changing to something more indigenous because it was too Western,
And
the name that
what
we
year is
had.
this, if you don't mind me asking? What year is that?
Um, well, there are different years for all of those things, but 2004 was when they knocked down the one of the most prominent Columbus statues.
Wow.
That's when it was like a domino effect. A lot of other things happened after that.
Okay. Or they're changing
So I
street
just
names,
I
more
didn't
indigenous, and I'll let you take
yeah.
it from there.
I don't remember if 2004 was also the street names. The street names happened in different years. But yeah, it was all during the first few years of Chavez, and then more so because he sort of wanted to change the identity of the country. And I was like adding things that I was seeing. That plus one of the co-founders of BLM going to Venezuela and, getting together with our um I don't want to call him president, so I'm gonna say the regime leader,
Wow.
that
Okay.
guy, Maduro.
The regime leader. Okay.
Um yes. Although he's more of a puppet, it's like really he is.
Wow.
He was
Okay.
placed there by Cuba and whatever. That's a whole nother topic.
All right. Next
But
time. That'll be next week then. All right.
yes, but the co-founder of BLM, of Black Lives Matter, went to Venezuela in 2015, and she said on Twitter that she was happy to be in a place with intelligent political discourse. And this happened a year after massive protests erupted all across my country, where a lot of people were killed, like asking for Nicolas Maduro to resign. And police brutality was actually rampant against the protesters back home.
Really? Okay.
So I was like looking at the hypocrisy of this
Right.
woman, you know, saying, it's smart political discourse. And then how I keep seeing them be friends. She went to the National Electoral Council to see how they dealt with elections in Venezuela, which, there haven't been fair in years. So I thought she has a completely warped view of the world. And she is one of the founders of this movement. And you can't divorce your principles and your values from the movement that you create.
That's fair
So,
enough.
regardless of the fact that people were saying, well, she's just one person in the movement, like all these people believe in, yes, sure, but where's the money going? It's going into that organization,
Right. Follow the money.
you
I
know?
mean, that's the old one of the oldest
Exactly.
phrases ever. Follow the money.
And they are organized. They just don't suddenly decide one day I'm like, I feel like going to the street right now, and they just show up. There's an organization behind that.
Okay. So how do you think they operate? Out of curiosity, with my military background, how do you think they orchestrate? How strategic they're being then?
I think they're pretty organized, and I think people don't even realize. I mean, uh, I'm just assuming things, but I would think that people kind of have local chapters, and they communicate with more at a national level. and then the local chapters sort of might, so people on the grounds are thinking that this is a grassroots movement,
Okay.
right? This is just me making assumptions, and then they create these Facebook pages about when they're going to go, and they create the social media posts. This is all organized. It isn't random. It isn't spontaneous. People are actually either it probably being paid to create the social media posts, probably being paid to organize this protests that go across the United States. And I really don't think that hundreds of people are just waking up one day and deciding we're gonna go outside in March
Yeah.
and we're gonna find everyone else there. No, that's not
Right.
how it works.
Um, well, I was gonna play this video that you actually got on the Ingram Mingle on Fox News.
Hmm.
So how well, I'll play this in the background. I'm not sure if the sound will be on, so we'll just have it playing in the background. And you're obviously here, so
Okay.
uh, you can just tell us what you were saying. But how'd they reach out to you?
Email.
Really? Fox News just sent you an email?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so my video went viral about 2 days after I posted it. Well, at least it was going viral over the weekend, and I noticed it 2 days after I posted because friends of mine started reaching out to me, saw me on Twitter, and then they saw, and someone else saw me on Facebook. And at the point that point, I started freaking out a little bit about it. I thought I kind of was like, I want to stop this. This is too much for me. I didn't really want it to go across all platforms, and people that I know all of a sudden were seeing me. One of my reasons for TikTok was like, I don't know anybody there. Nobody there knows me. I don't follow anybody. No, nobody that I know follows me, so it's okay.
It's like
I can say whatever I want.
yeah, that's how I felt about TikTok as well. Right.
Yeah. But then it went viral everywhere, and my people that knew me saw it in other platforms. Um,
Ugh.
and then I started getting a lot of messages, a lot of new followers. I wasn't sure what that was about, and suddenly I get an email from Fox News from, the booker from Laura Ingraham,
Mhm.
and I thought it was a joke at first.
Oh yeah, for
I
sure.
didn't really. I was like, "There's someone that's playing a joke on me. There's 100% not real. There's no way." But so I did my due diligence, and before I answered the email, I went and researched the guy who wrote the email to make sure that this was an actual person that works in Fox News.
Right.
And true enough, he was. So I did a Skype little thing before him because he just wanted to see how my camera worked. And then I asked him if they were gonna tell me what we were gonna talk about. Which he was like, "Yeah, you see your video, you see your video." So I didn't get any questions beforehand. People always wonder about this. I had no idea what they were gonna ask me. In fact, like the first question she threw me, I was really not expecting because it was more about like generally how I saw American youth, how,
Yeah, it was a big question.
they were taking, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, I didn't really expect that one, but I tried to recover. And then she asked me about like Andrew Cuomo and all these things in
Yeah, that was the one
China.
that
And I was
took
like,
my
well,
took me by surprise was when she asked you how you felt about Governor Cuomo's rhetoric of him saying, or, racism for sure. We can overdo it, but right now we're not.
mhm.
And then she kind of put that pressure on you, and I was like, golly, she just all of a sudden is on TikTok making dances, does one political post, and now she's on Fox News being asked what a governor thinks in a state. Like that blows my mind how that sequence of events happens. It's awesome that that
I
happened to
know.
you. I'm glad.
I know.
I'm glad, and you handle it very
Uh-huh.
responsibly, very professional. I was impressed.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'll
it was crazy. And then I suddenly got all people were hating on me as well. They
who? Oh, okay.
commenting on my post like crazy,
What?
saying my career is over and all these things.
Oh yeah. Okay.
A white
As
Latina, of course she's saying this, they would say. Like,
hold
of
on.
course, they were making this about.
Hold on. What did you say? A white Latina? That's a thing? I don't even know what that means.
Well, well, Hispanic or Latino isn't a race. Um, so yeah, people are always kind of confuse the two things.
Hmm.
Um, Because all of the Latin American nations are immigrant nations as well. So we all have a different, there's a lot of mixes for sure in Latin America. That's why you see someone that's like very much black, that's Latin American, and someone that can look literally like they could fit in, right into Germany and no problem.
All right. Well, that's a lot
So
to wrap my head
yeah,
around as a boy from Oklahoma. So I'll try to process that tonight.
there's
Uh,
it's not a race. Like most people, I would say this is the easiest way to wrap your head around it. Most people in Latin America are mixed race because we had slavery, we had the indigenous population, especially Peru, Mexico, and Ecuador. You know, they
hmm.
have the Aztecs, the Mayans, the I forgot the other ones. Sorry, my bad. But
Yeah.
yeah, the
No,
biggest
you're talking about
empires.
Incas.
Yeah, and then the Incas, and then Venezuela or like Argentina case as much. And then in the 20th century, because of the two wars, we had the most immigration coming from Europe to Venezuela and to Argentina and to Brazil.
Okay.
And also in Venezuela, there's a big immigration when Lebanon started having all these troubles. There's a lot of immigrants that came in from Lebanon.
Yeah, that's curious that you say that. When we talked the other night, I didn't realize how much of a an immigrant bound country Venezuela was. And if you don't
Yeah,
mind, kind of hit on that. I think you and I both agree that legal immigration is best. And
yeah.
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to. And
No,
I
no,
see
I
you.
agree. The legal immigration really helped us in the 20th century. A lot of Europeans came to Venezuela to look for economic opportunity
Hmm,
because it was one of the best places to rise through the middle class and upper middle class and so on and so forth. Of course, that stagnated after the 80s. But then at the same time, Colombia wasn't having the best time. So Venezuelans would make three times as much, like the average salary in Venezuela was three times as much the Colombian salary. I would say
okay.
like in the 70s and 80s.
So that's
So
similar
people
to
were
America,
trying to,
maybe, right? It's probably similar.
yeah, possible. So
Okay.
people were trying to come to Venezuela for quality of life and a lot of, and then we had some progressive politicians coming in the 80s and 90s, which is why our economy stagnated and Chavez was able to get elected in the late 90s because there was some growing discontent and it was due to the progressive policies that were keeping people poor, dependent, and there was a growing population, poor population, because there were so many people coming in from Colombia that were expecting sort of help from the government.
Right.
Um,
Hmm.
not all Colombians, you got to say that, so not
Listen,
not to be
I mess
politically
up my
incorrect.
words so much that I think anybody would give up uh, any hope of me being politically correct. Uh,
Yeah,
I appreciate you coming out about the story of what happened in Colombia because I'm sure it's obviously it hits a special part in your heart because seeing your country
yeah. I
go
mean,
from very successful to what you're experiencing now.
for sure. I mean, and also crime was also a big factor because Colombia was in Venezuela, but because people like Chavez started allowing more people to come through the border, um, we became the second most dangerous country in Latin America. Uh,
Which is
no,
pretty
not
dangerous,
actually,
right?
not the second. I think Honduras might be even more than us, but the first one is Mexico.
Okay.
And so we are in the top five or so when it comes to murders and kidnappings. That used to not be the case.
Yeah, you
There's
talked
like
about your
a
dad having an armored
major,
car.
yeah, a
That
lot of
blows my
people
mind.
have. If you can invest in an armored car, you should in Venezuela, especially if you live in Caracas.
Hmm.
I had an armored car the time I had a car there. If you go to like any middle class university, you'll see most of the cars were armored.
Okay. Well, I guess that really doesn't
Yeah.
leave me any place to go from there. I mean, I think that you've said quite a bit on this topic, and I know that you have a lot of people reach out to you on social media wanting to engage with you because of what you've experienced. And honestly, it does fit a lot of people's narrative of why Trump's put in to office, or put into place policies that he's put into place. I'd like
Yeah.
to detract from that, like detract from attaching Trump to those policies, because policies are made
Mm-hmm.
in Congress. And
Mm-hmm.
when I saw your story, I guess it hit a place where I didn't understand it would, with the street names changing, the monuments being knocked down. Because I see that and I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
all right, well, if that makes everybody happier and they'll be happier and progress can be made, awesome. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any statues around me that I'm really worried about. And then when I hear you say this, I'm like, okay, so that was a sign for her back then. And then I'm seeing all these other things, the violence, the immigration the flood of immigration from the progressive
Yeah.
idea. And I'm like, oh no, I need to get her on my podcast so I can talk with her, personally, so I understand it, but also to show that there's a history there that they don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily have to reach out to you. They can reach out to Google and research what happened in Venezuela themselves and learn that
Yeah.
story.
And not even Venezuela. After I made that video, I got messages from people, Cubans, people that left Soviet countries,
Right.
Greece, even when communism hit
Hmm.
Greece, Hungary as well, China, and they were all saying the same signs manifested themselves there.
Ah.
Um, it's a cultural revolution, and it comes straight from Marxism.
And critical race theory, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I have
yeah,
hope.
that's the new school Marxism.
New
Old school
school.
Marxism is only class struggle. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
that's neo-Marxism because it comes from the Frankfurt School. So we didn't really talk. We had some semblance of critical theory, a little bit about, the indigenous versus the white colonizers or whatever. But it wasn't as strong as it is here. I would say it was the old school Marxism, which is what I say, because it
old
was a
school.
class struggle, the rich
Right.
and the poor, the rich are oppressing the poor, which you see a little bit of that here as well. You see
Oh,
that for
right.
sure.
Yeah. By all means,
But they
it's not a
replaced
perfect
that
country.
with, yeah, they replaced that with critical theory, which is critical race theory.
Right.
So about, race oppressing another race, or critical gender theory, men oppressing women. So the only way to right the wrong is for women to now oppress men.
I mean, honestly, as a white guy in his mid 30s, it is a
Yeah.
confusing time. I'm like, I'm not sure who I'm about to step on, but I'm going to step on somebody's feelings right now, and I'm sorry, but I can't walk around my life making sure that I don't hurt people's feelings. In
Hmm.
fact, I'd rather walk through life trying to figure out how I can help people. That's just a different
Okay.
mindset that I'm trying to gravitate towards. And there's one thing about this podcast: I try to identify problems, and I try to bring awareness through this platform, but I also like to give hope. And so, how do you feel about the situation in America today? And do you have hope for America, not necessarily correcting this wrong, but understanding what's going on and battling it?
I don't
Oh, I'm
know.
nervous. Oh no,
I
I'm
don't
so
know.
nervous.
I was thinking about this right before. I was thinking if there's a way that a certain group of people get what they want and they get rid of the institutions that the US put in place a long time ago to make sure that the majority wouldn't be tyrannical over the minority, which is why you guys have the electoral college, from what I understand.
Yes, that is very
Um,
true. Awesome.
and they're trying to get rid of it. I used to be against it. I was like, why would they have this? This makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
But
popular vote.
now I really understand. And we had something similar to the electoral college back home.
Ah, so many similarities.
They got rid of it. Yeah, they got rid of it because they thought it was undemocratic. Um, but then there was a president that realized that was such a bad idea, and he tried to put it back in a forcible way. He was actually one of the best presidents we had. He was just a dictator as well.
Oh yeah,
So
like one of
that
those.
pissed a
Yeah,
lot of people off. But like economically and in other ways, he was pretty good.
yeah. Besides the whole dictatorship, great guy. Loves
The
coffee.
the
Killer,
other,
killer
yeah,
coffee.
exactly. He was sort of there, and he wouldn't. The democracy didn't matter to him as much. It was more about putting
Hmm.
Venezuela on the map. And so our economy grew really a lot during his time, and also it was really safe. So I would much rather have that kind of person be the president than the one that we have now. But yeah, ideally no dictatorship. That would be ideal.
That would be great. No communism. We're just gonna get that out there in case anybody thought it was a good idea.
But basically, exactly, I don't want people thinking that I want a dictatorship. But basically, that his reaction was because of the electoral college that we had. He wanted to reinstitute that. That didn't happen, and so the popular vote, and it was easier to sort of manipulate the masses. And that's
Hmm.
why we got Chavez eventually, because you manipulate them through media. You tell them that you're going to give them things, etc.
Oh
And then
man,
we
yeah.
finally got Chavez, and it becomes a tyranny of the majority, which I don't really believe is a majority anymore. I don't really think the majority of people support Maduro. I'm pretty sure it's the opposite, but I was in the government. So,
Yeah.
but
Well,
anyway, if I see the U.S. get rid of those institutions, then I would be really worried.
worried for us or
So
worried for the
I'm
world?
really for you and the world, because I think a lot of the world is mirroring whatever happens here as well. Um,
So we would
so
say we have a responsibility.
yeah, unfortunately,
Hey, you know what? With great
unfortunately,
responsibility,
yes,
comes great outcome. I'm not sure if that's a phrase,
yeah.
but I'm gonna make it one because I'm hopeful.
My friends in that are in Europe that are paying attention to what's going on understand, because the media that they get in Europe is very biased, and it's very CNN like, MSNBC like. So people just get that information. If you're really interested, then you have to go do your research on your own. And I have some friends that do that, and they watch the debates, they go on YouTube, they look for different videos, and they think that their own countries are mirroring what happens here. And even the UK, because in the UK they had Brexit and they had the
Oh yeah.
election of Boris Johnson before Trump, but it's sort of a reaction to these progressive policies that are taking over. So people are sort of
Hmm.
reacting to that now,
You
and
think?
that's why in England they suffered like like the Labour Party, which was similar in a way to the Democratic Party in some way. They usually had the vote of the working class, the northern British people, and not so much the bourgeois or the people in London. And then suddenly it flipped. Um, People, they suffered a historic loss. People that have always voted for them stopped voting for them and voted for the other party, which was the party where Boris Johnson was,
Right.
because they felt like they were always being called racist and sexist and all these things, and people were just tired of it.
Yeah. Uh, heard that. It's getting ridiculous. And what scares me
Yeah,
is, from a personal standpoint, and just like you said, you had people come after you when you went on Fox News and just spoke your mind, and they're threatening you that you would lose your livelihood. That's
mm-hmm.
not cool in America. That's not something that should happen if you're just saying historical facts and your experiences. You didn't
Exactly.
do anything to anybody else. So for me, uh, having been called a racist probably over 100 times this year so far.
Wow.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, I seem like a really evil dude. Like I got the hoodies and everything in the back. Can't see out of that damn thing, but I wear it. It scares me whenever somebody like me, who literally tries to not see past race but understand it and come together. And I grew up on a farm, and I try to make friends, and I think it's more beautiful, uh, the relationship can be if we're that much more different. So the more different somebody is from me, the more beautiful it can be if we get along and come together for a purpose. And when I'm getting cut out of the equation and being called a racist over 100 times in a 6 month period,
Hmm.
I can only imagine giving a shit for too much longer.
Yeah,
You know,
I would say this is only going to grow, actual racism that's been going on.
well, I'm hopeful because I think that maybe conservatives are understanding the importance of social media and how it influences children. And this is my
Hopefully.
plea to everybody: stop sharing shit that ain't true, please, please, for the
Yeah,
love
well,
of
I see
memes
that all the time.
on both sides.
Some of the
Oh,
influencers I follow
oh man.
share things like Trump won't denounce white supremacy. And I'm like,
Oh,
guys,
that.
really? You have a big you were not doing any research to be saying this. He's
um,
done it so many times.
just you put it in YouTube. Trump denounces racism, and there's a lot of pages, literally hundreds of videos of him doing this. And
Because
it's
they
not that I,
trust
yeah,
their information so much.
which is
Sorry,
funny.
I interrupted you.
Oh no, it's I'm still working with an amateur studio here, but I'm having a great time doing this. I appreciate it. I think that
Mhm.
having people like you and I, these interactions are great politically, but let's change footing here. Let's pivot to how you're using
Sure.
social media in your life and what your career goals are. So I know you like your political commentary. A lot of people do. There's also more to you. So what's the future hold for Elizabeth?
I don't know.
You don't
That's a
know
loaded question.
what?
I
Okay,
don't know.
well,
I mean,
into that topic.
this would be
Okay,
my ideal circumstance.
shoot.
And I said this the other day to a friend of mine, and he was like, "Oh, everyone wants that." I'm like, "Well, maybe, but I don't think that's the case." So, you ever see the show Anthony Bourdain, Parts Unknown?
No, I've not.
So it's
I just killed it.
basically
All
the
right, sorry.
chef.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know who Anthony Bourdain is?
Yes, yes, I do know who that is.
Well, or was.
All right.
So he had a show that he went around the world talking to different people, experiencing different food. It was mostly about food. Um, and I didn't really watch that show because I'm not really that interested in food. I like food, but it's
Oh,
not
same.
really
I think everyone
my,
likes food.
yes, but I don't enjoy watching someone else eat it. I enjoy myself going to restaurants and eating.
Yeah, I don't think there's a place where people go to pay to watch people eat, and if there is, I don't want to go there.
Yeah, exactly. People watch the show and they love it. It was a popular show, not for me, but the style of the show I liked.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
And the idea of something like that, but not so much about food, but more about having conversations with people, with locals, about their town, their culture, the history of the place they were born, like that type of thing.
So like
Um,
cultural commentary is what you're saying.
yeah, but traveling, talking to these people.
I got a podcast name for you.
Parts unknown, but instead of what?
I got a podcast name for you already off the top of my head.
What is it?
Um, I just lost it. Cultural commentary. Oh man, I just lost it. Cultural commentary. Yep, I look like an idiot. I had it. It was another c word. I had that
Cultural
alliteration.
commentary.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Man, it was alliteration. I'll think of it later. But yeah, that's a great
Okay,
idea.
okay, tell
I
me
don't know of a
later.
show like that. It's got like a Joe Rogan on the
That would
road.
be, yeah, exactly. That would be amazing. I think I would love that.
Hmm.
Um, right now I'm more like, being very vocal on social media. I don't know how my content will transform after this year because this year is hyper political, but I'll probably start talking a little bit more about, the cultural aspects of what got us here in the first place.
Hmm.
Um, and also what's going on in other countries in Latin America and Europe, because a lot of us are mirroring each other.
Okay.
Um, so that's what I'm doing. I also have a YouTube channel which I started recently. I only
Oh, I did.
posted about 4 videos so far.
Okay.
So
I'll leave a link to
yeah,
that in the not I can't do it on the live feed because I don't have it, but I'll leave a link on that in the podcast when I upload it. So
I'm
what's the
I'm
channel
thinking
about?
of doing a. It's right now it has some politics in it, but I
Okay.
also want to talk about other things. Like I have a friend that I want to get on and talk about feminism versus femininity, which I think
Oh.
in some ways they go against each other.
Well,
So
I
that's
need to
something
listen
I
to
would
that
like
because I
to talk
don't know
about
what
with
that
her.
last one is. Femininity. Hmm.
Femininity.
Yeah, can't even pronounce it, so I'll leave that one to you. That's awesome. That'd be
You know what it is.
interesting.
What are you talking about?
I know, I'm just playing. I like to troll people on this sometimes.
Oh my God. Well,
Did I have you
that's
for a
the
minute?
worst thing you can do to me because I'm like, well, maybe I'm not pronouncing things right. Like English is my second language.
Okay, guilty. That's my bad. I won't do that again. All right,
Okay,
I'm gonna put up your email right here, if that's okay. That's what we wanted to put up. Um,
sure.
if anybody has, oh, it's on the wrong graphic. Maybe this will work. If anybody has any jobs they're offering, you're looking for employment in the social media workspace, correct?
Yeah, I'm just looking for something like a side income thing.
Side
I
hustle,
already have
I think is what the
something.
kids call it.
Side hustle.
Yeah.
Side hustle, yes, that's what the kids call it. But the kids make up their own words, so I can also make up my own
Like cultural commentary that
side
has,
income.
yeah.
Yeah, it's it's a social construction at the end of the day.
Wow. Okay, that's you can't drop a bomb like that at the very end of this, but we're gonna have to go. I know you have other things to do tonight. We'll we'll defuse that bomb later. And
What's
my
that's a
camera's
bomb?
frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was really good.
Yeah, it is.
That was perfect for me since I was in the bomb squad. All right, thank you guys so much for listening, Elizabeth. Thank you again for your time. Thank you for sharing
Yes.
your story and your courage to do so, and I wish you the best of luck.